Hi, this is Peace and Harmony here, your host. We are zooming in and focusing in on a great viewer question, and that is how to process or remove and eliminate the guilt that can be associated with sort of breaking up with a narcissistic or psychopathic individual. How do you move beyond that guilt? Feeling that you've done something wrong. Guilt is usually a feeling which is very uncomfortable, which is aversive, which meaning unpleasant. And it usually arrives at the fact of reflecting on yourself. So, in other words, to be guilty feels that you have committed some wrong or offense onto another. Um, so you feel that maybe you have offended somebody or hurt somebody, and, and that you have not repaired the wrongs. So you might feel that things are unsettled. So that can be the cause of guilt. The guilt also can be created or stirred up as really a primary emotion in some relationships that are marked by people who are controlling, power hungry, on a power trip, an ego rant, or what have you. These individuals tend to use guilt as a way to manipulate others to do something that they want. In other words, if they can make you feel bad, it's a way for them to get you to have power over you and power over your behavior. The problem with this is it becomes difficult to have leverage over, which means to understand how to wield it, manage it, and then sort of reduce those feelings, basically known as being able to manage your emotions and your feelings and control and be able to control that state. The guilt is usually part of, I would say, a feeling once you've been in that relationship that they'll project and imply that there's some offense or crime that you have committed onto them, namely disappointment, which is just their judgment. So it doesn't have anything to do about your character. Generally, guilt can be used as a way to really force or make somebody do something when there isn't sort of any teaching or emotional learning going on. So, in other words, it becomes an adverse state that people then have to respond to. Guilt is to induce them to do something, to make them feel that they have done something wrong, and because they should be so ashamed of themselves, that then that's why they should do something. And so this is like an induced feeling that a lot of people might have really played that hit record on the highlight reel of their life for a long period of time. It's just like guilt becomes a new normal. It becomes their identity. It becomes how they navigate through their world physically, feeling fearful or, social anxiety, the sort of cluster C situations that we see as a result. And, so the guilt is something that you have to realize that you control within, because guilt is usually an experience once you've reflected on something about yourself. And so has this person, quote unquote, tried to make you feel wrong, inadequate, or bad? In other words, is that part of the end result of their behavior or their communication? Is it designed to make you feel bad, guilty, inadequate, question and doubt yourself? And so, knowing that to be the case, oftentimes that is part of the devalue where, you've got the excessive criticism, the belittling, the minimizing, the sort of, you don't need to feel that way. You have no right to, causing you to doubt your own feelings, your reality. So when you do feel your feelings, you feel that maybe, there's some crime, some wrong, some offense associated with your needs of being happy. Because if you have been exposed to that as a tool, then you might have that really as a very deep-seated or hardwired feeling that you have not only had installed, but rehearsed and reinforced and memorized. So your thoughts then are also supportive of that. If it's an ongoing feeling that you feel guilty or that there's something wrong about you for leaving. So usually that negative feeling usually arrives at at the from the receiving end of some sort of criticism, some sort of judgment, to try to meet the expectations of another, which is not oftentimes your own truth, your own reality, and your actual true expectations and your goal for yourself, sort of how you, but because those have been because those have been minimized, not discussed, not aired out, not brought into play, then you might not able to be able to manage those feelings. You haven't learned how to handle and shape that and change your feeling state because of this. So you have to look at, what is the real seed, the contention. Was it that you're too slow, too poor, you see through something that is false? Oftentimes, you might feel guilty for not wanting to put up or not being able to please the narcissist. And oftentimes it's difficult to understand that there's nothing you can do. That's just how they are. So you really have to realize that you can't take it personally. That's just sort of the result that they create in relationships. It can be very unsettling to people, meaning it causes them to wobble and, seesaw back and forth. Am I right? Is this okay? Am I okay to feel this way? So you haven't really sort of tested the waters out of your own emotions. They say repressed and not really sort of aired out, talked about, discussed. So you have to realize that you really have to make that a priority in understanding, how is this used to cause you to feel a long face, and to what degree was that utilitarian for someone or some event at the time, and which was designed to keep power over you. But realizing the problem is that it's very disempowering to people, even into their adulthood. Their middle age, even later into life, where they're still struggling with these problems, and they go, this is, unhealthy, this is aversive, this is not pleasant. So realizing that if that was sort of a motivator, and then for you, that was, used as a tool of manipulation, just like shame, feeling that you should be embarrassed, that there's, something wrong with your needs, and just sort of override your own truth, just swallow the truth and suck it up, is kind of what can create a lot of that guilt if it's been repressed for so long. And if you realize that, have you really, if you self-reflect, is it okay for you to be happy? Is that part of what could be in your future? Is that a possibility? Is that a potential? And could you be in your best? Could you become your best in the future? Is there something that your life would hold where you indeed do feel happy, you do feel strong, you don't go through periods of guilt? Is that a possibility for you? And you have to sort of be able to negotiate and be able to be receptive to your own self-reflection. Because oftentimes, if people have been disempowered for so long, they've been made to be the wrong one. Doubt, just follow, you can't lead, you're the runt, you're the this, whatever it is that they had sort of inflicted onto you as a way to keep you down, which then created a block for you, meaning, an inhibitory mechanism that creates the social anxiety and all the other maladies there. Realize that was instilled erroneously. And have you really committed an offense? And, what is that offense? What offense did you really have? If there is, so maybe there is something. Maybe you procrastinated for a while, and so, but if you own certain truths about yourself, you'll realize that you can then liberate and release that feeling of wrongdoing, because oftentimes the wrongdoing, I feel, is there because our victims lack an experience of self-trust. They have not had enough experience to learn to trust themselves, to be reliable and true to self, and to be compassionate to self and empathy to self. In other words, you have to be number one. And this is not wrong to be number one for yourself. this is actually the right thing. You need to be able to fill your own cup and not have it poisoned or made toxic by feelings of guilt or fear or obligation that is not really required or in your best interest or part of a truth, what truly makes you happy. Oftentimes, a narcissist will, use a lot of substitutes, ego supply, things that make them appear as if the material, the whatever, the superficial, to command and try to continue an authority, so then people feel that they have to meet the expectations of the narcissist. It's okay to not meet their expectations. It doesn't make you a wrong, bad, or a flawed person. Just because you aren't able to be an energetic match to the fantasy or that sort of fragmented sense of self, that just because you're unhappy living a lie, living fake, living whatever, how, that whole gaminess is, that whole struggle, just because you don't want to live that way, that there's a better life, a new life, that is more appropriate for you, a better fit. It's okay to acknowledge and validate that and not feel, and you have not offended yourself by sticking up for yourself, and you have not offended anybody else for being able to acknowledge and validate that and take care of yourself and know your truth. Just because they have not been able to see it because of a lack of empathy, it doesn't make you wrong. It doesn't make you flawed. It doesn't make you ready to be limited in life and have a sentence of unhappiness. If so, you're holding that in place. And you really need to really move it around like furniture. You need to be able to remove some of these pillars that you have been relaxing in your life. Literally people do carry it around like bags, like physical items, like feelings, is this guilt? And to what degree can you say, if it, who would I be if I wasn't so guilty? So oftentimes it's a lack of being able to answer that question for oneself and being able to see that they have trust and then personal power, and then to own that might take some reviewing and meditating on, or really finally having the courage to accept an answer like that, and then to be able to let go of guilt as a sort of fuel for you, and to realize that you're motivated perhaps by something positive that enables your strengths, which allows you to incorporate and integrate your strengths as well as the lessons learned. So you are more keenly aware of your boundaries and standards. So you won't, backtrack. So you have to have that confidence of self that, hey, if this gets tested, if my boundaries or standards get tested, I know what to do. If you don't know what to do, or if you don't have the behavior when it's tested, then you have not healed as of yet. Then you need to surround yourself with people who have healed, who do not feel guilty when they're not abused, that they have, realized that they don't want to fall into that game where you always end up a loser. They've decided, they've made the decision, a conscious decision, and then they've been committed 100%, not 90%, not 80%, not 50-50. So if your commitment is not all there, then you are going to continue to feel guilty. You're going to continue to feel bad. You're not going to trust yourself. You're not going to have sort of these quantum leaps of growth where all of a sudden you go, I don't need that anymore, and this is okay. I don't need this in order to, be pleasing to somebody. I don't need to meet the egoic needs of another. I need to meet my egoic needs for myself. And to be able to make that switch, that internal motivation, it might take some time, it might be gradual, or it might all of a sudden, click in. And so we really want you to have those results, so it really clicks in. And you realize that it's important to be motivated from self-understanding and, self-excitement and self-enthusiasm and passion and reliability on self, and then building that up through repetition and experience so that you can manage and control your emotional state, that you're able to, physically eliminate those feelings of being condemned, of being at the, the blaming end, all the long laundry list, just do away with it. That's usually someone else's energy, that's someone else's decision, that's someone else's expectation, which oftentimes does not have anything to do maybe with your true self, your life, your purpose, your what you're here, and there's nothing you can do to change that. People will eventually realize that your heart is to a certain drum. Your values are this. You're meaningful. What makes you happy? So it's okay to own that. Just because a narcissist or psychopath had deceived you and you have trouble regaining that, realize the power is in your hands and the heaven is in your hands also. This is your buddy, Peace and Harmony. I hope these videos do help. Please donate, please share, and please subscribe if these videos do help. Please feel free to give back to the channel, and really look at the comments too, because other people will also be able to be supportive and provide a good sounding board for you when you need those sort of real and self-trustworthy moments that are based on your true boundaries and standards. Bye-bye.